To your point, how I view it is this. I'm not celebrating him as a martyr. He had many past transgressions that I believe can all be expiated through the blood of Christ, period, right? You know, he didn't deserve to die, period. But what happened from when he was born to his present day, I always ask, when I'm ever driving around a small town, I don't know if you guys do this, and I see a closed up, boarded up old business, I'm like, what the hell happened here? How did this happen? How did they fail? I look at George Floyd. Why was he in the position that he was in, you know, from the beginning? Were there certain institutional things that led him down the path that he was at? What was his path? What was his story arc? How did he get to that point to where he would be in, you know, have some past transgressions and be in a position where he was utilizing a $20 bill counterfeit to where police were called on him? I'm like, how does it get to that point? But the fact remains, right? He should still be alive.
Right.
Yeah. He should still be alive. Right? But what I'm concerned about is, okay, what's happening within our inner cities? What's happening within our urban communities? What's happening with the African American community? And I hear on this other side, right? Because I try to listen to both sides as much as I can, and I try to meet in the middle to find truth, right? People are claiming victimhood. It's all about victim culture, right? Victim culture. I'm like, maybe for some, I'm not going to say it's like broad strokes aren't for all folks, right? You just can't do that. Yeah, I think there are some people that are looking for, you know, help, right? And they're looking for excuses. There's crutch culture at times, right? Everyone gets a trophy, right? All those things, right? We talk about those things in any society, in any culture, right? But guys, we have to address, there is institutional things that do stymie the progress of African Americans. What are they? How can we diagnose them? And how can we do a better job of abolishing those? As Russell M. Nelson said, completely uprooting racism and prejudice, and hopefully we can do that. The problem is, as you mentioned, you are minorities. So to gain a tangible, experience with an African American, multiple African Americans, how difficult is that for white America?
Difficult,
right? That's what I'm saying. Like there's that element as well that I take into, you know, the algorithm here, the equation of education. You know what I mean? So my heart feels for those that haven't had those blessings, right? And so I don't have those answers, but I think these conversations do help, and hopefully there are those that are listening right now that will reach out, you know, and have those experiences, you know, and hopefully befriend and ask questions. I love asking questions.
Or you can do anything, right? You can read, you can watch. I mean, there's so, we live in an era where you can get on your laptop and research everything, right? Like,
you got to make sure that you create a holistic approach to your education.
For sure.
Because
exactly.
there is direct marketing to you
yes.
by your search. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
100%. 100%. But I say that to say there's avenues, right, to really grow your knowledge. Like, for example, I watched Just Mercy this weekend. I don't know if you guys have seen it, Michael B. Jordan. I was tweeting about it saying, hey, people should watch this, right? Because it's a conversation starter. And it's a tough movie to watch because, you know, it's, you know, back in the day, it's Deep South, they're in Alabama, you know, guys wrongfully charged and convicted, given a death sentence before his trial's even taken place. I mean, it's a dark movie, but it shows you, and even to what Brandon spoke earlier about the South, it just talks about how, you know, the steps and the barriers that people have had to overcome to get to this point today. But sadly, we still have, you know, a ways to go. We're not there yet. We're not at the finish line yet.
I haven't seen Just Mercy. But there's tons. The 13th on Netflix, a documentary. One of the best documentaries I've seen. And it talks about the system, right? Mm-hmm. And how it has affected the black community even until today, you know. Another one, how they see us, you know, about those 5 guys and the kids in New York, the way they manipulated those 5 boys of color, you know, and made them into monsters, something they weren't, had nothing to do with anything that they were trying to figure out, but they were treated as if they knew 100% that they were guilty, you know. And unfortunately, that's real life. That's not, these things aren't made up. It's not fiction. It's not, like someone was laying in bed, like, you know what, I'm gonna write a story.
Yeah, it's a
about
good
this.
story.
You know what I mean? No, this is real. These are real experiences, right? And I think people would be shocked to go and find how many black men they can find similar stories.
For sure.
You know, whether it be personal or a friend or a dad or an uncle or a cousin. You know, like these are real.
So I'm gonna tell you how, as a young kid, I realized I was different, and my dad pointed this out to me. He kind of set the stage for me, and I was young. I was probably 7 or 8. My dad was like, "All right, we're gonna watch a movie," and he's like, "I just want you to watch the movie, and we'll talk about it after." And the movie was called Hurricane Carter. It's a Denzel movie. It's a good flick.
Boxing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. My dad, he had me sit down. We watched the movie. I'm like crying in the middle of the movie because another situation, right? African American man wrongly convicted for a crime he didn't commit. You know, he's thrown in jail for 10, 15 years. Life is basically thrown away, right? They've cast him out, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, like, no, like Brandon's point, this doesn't really happen. Like, this is a story. Like, people are not really going through this, especially people who look like us, you know? And I'm crying at them. My dad's like, "Why are you crying?" Like, he ends up getting his freedom. He gets, you know, freed, and he's living his life. And I'm like, I don't want to go through those type of experiences. I don't want to be wrongly convicted or have a police stop me, and all of a sudden I'm in a, you know, a tricky situation. I don't want to go through all that. But I think the tough part is, and Brandon can attest to this, is I feel like black fathers or black adults who are leading young black children have to have these tough conversations to say, hey, when you go out into the world, you know, you got to be careful. You got to be aware of your surroundings. You know, if you get stopped or you get caught in a bad situation, you got to know how to, for one, respect authority, of course, because, you know, the police are the authority. But you have to understand that, hey, not everybody has your best interest when you go out into the real world. You know, and that's a tough conversation to have. And sadly, to watch someone, you know, die the way George Floyd was killed is sad, but that's forcing people to have tough conversations, black and white, I think, with their kids to say, okay, this is what goes on in the world. And for a long time, you know, for a white person, you were probably shielded from this. But as a black person, this is real. Like, at any point in time, there's no guarantees we're all going to make it home. You know what I mean? And that's scary. And somebody asked me the other day, are you really worried about, do you worry every day about not going home? I'm like, I mean, I'm not every day, but, you know, this has definitely shed light on the realness of and the authenticity of what America is, right? And I think that's important for people to understand that this is forcing us to have tough conversations, and some even having them earlier than they would have expected to have with their kids.
Most definitely. It's like in my post I wrote, like, I'm lucky if I get 2 more years, right, before I have to sit down and have this talk with my 9-year-old son.
Yeah.
Right? By the age of 11, I'm going to have to sit down and tell him all these things that Ashton just mentioned. Don't do this. Make sure you're respectful. Make sure, you know, you're saying yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You know, make sure if you get pulled over, you sit up straight, hands seen. You know, I'm going to have to tell him all these things.
Socialization.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, the difficult part is I have to educate him so that he understands and he can maneuver through this world without tainting his perspective of himself and the world. You see how difficult that is? Like, I could easily, by sharing this with him at this age, easily switch his whole perspective of who he is and what he's capable of doing, right? Because it goes from me trying to educate him to him wondering, like, wow, is that, like, am I really not as smart as other people? Am I really not as capable as other people? Am I really a danger to other people? You know what I mean? Now, the moment that someone says these things to him, all this comes back. And like my dad told me this years ago, when what I was trying to do was educate him so he can be successful. But like I said, it could easily do the complete opposite, you know, and paint this picture of something that people see him as, but he's not. You know, so as a black man, as a black person, you're dealing with it from so many different levels, so many different directions. It's more than just, you know, you treat me equal, right? Because you treat me equal doesn't necessarily mean that I won't have to still have this conversation with my son.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like there's levels to it. Meek Mill says there's levels, right? and it's coming from all angles. And that is something in itself, like, that's stressful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That takes a toll on you. You know, that I'm always trying to figure out, to try to be a step ahead. You know, figure it out. Oh, well, I get skinny right here. You know what I mean? But on this one, I need to get big so people see me. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, but that is the reality of it. You know what I mean? That's the thought process. And like Anson said, no, every day I go outside, I don't think, will I make it home? My wife does. You know, my mom does.
Yeah.
I know when my son starts going out, I'll be more concerned about is he gonna make it home. But for me, no, not every day. But when I see a police officer, I get a little bit more tense.
A little tense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Now I start processing. Are my lights on? Did I hit my blinker? Am I speeding? All this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do I have my license?
Yeah.
You know, checking for my insurance.
That's an interesting case study. Every black male that I've come in contact with, typically, if they come from, I would say, a little bit more diverse background, I would say that they react that way. You know?
How do you not though?
Yeah.
Like, look at the media, look at the stories, read the newspaper. It's like, man, you hear those lights come on, or you pass by a police officer. It's like, ooh, let me just sit up straight. Or,
I'll be honest, I get scared around police officers.
You know what I mean, right? Yeah. Maybe it's not just a black thing then, but I don't know.
Look,
I think
I feel like a lot of it is outside of media is our own personal experience or experiences people that we know. I've had experiences. I've been handcuffed and put in the back of a police car because I fit the description. Haven't been told anything. They didn't tell me anything other than get out, search me, handcuffs, car. That was it. I could have been in jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was 18 years old. I had just graduated from high school, right? A month removed from graduating. In Birmingham, Alabama, went to visit my dad. Me, one of my best friends who came with me, and my stepbrother, all in the back of a police car for an hour because we fit the description. And the only way they let us go was because they caught the people they were looking for. If they had not, we were going to jail.
You were going to be detained.
Period.